Coming into 2020, the Boston Uprising looked to rebound from a weak 8-20 showing last season. They didn't begin the season too poorly, going 4-3 and able to make the first stage playoffs, but after that, it kind of collapsed, and that's what I'm going to be discussing today, whether or not they've made enough improvements to improve upon last season, or if they'll be even worse, actually. So let's get into it. First off, they lost quite a lot of their players. They lost Blase, Stellar, Persia, RCK, Alamo, AimGod, Kelix, which is a lot of players and almost all of their starters. Of course, they still have Color Hacks, Axiom, and Fusions, and almost everybody else is new. So I don't think last season they had necessarily weak talent. I just don't think they were able to put it together because as a team. Because if you look at their stage records, they went 4-3 in the first stage, which isn't bad at all. They were the last team to make the stage playoffs that stage. Stage 2, 3 and 4, only a 1-win difference, but that's the difference between the stage playoffs a lot of times. So they missed that, and then after that kind of fell apart. They went 1-6 in stage 3 and 0-7 in stage 4. And so they kept getting worse and worse as the season went on. Like stage 1, 4-3, and then dropped another win, and then 2 wins, and then, yeah. So, no bueno, very bad, and they needed to change something. I think management realized that if the roster they had last season couldn't work, there wasn't really a point in keeping them all together, and they needed to make some changes. Obviously, the players they had aren't awful. Almost all of them are on new teams in the Overwatch League. For example, Blaze's on the Outlaws, AimGod's on the Justice, Calix is on the Defiant. And yeah, so I don't think they had bad players. They just weren't great and they didn't work together very well, I guess. So the new players, of course, are almost all second scene players. Colorhacks, Axiom, and Fusions are the only ones who are remaining, and I imagine Axiom and Fusions will see most of the starting reps at the tank. Colorhacks DPS, he was pretty consistent last season. I don't think he was very bad at all. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's like one of the best in the league, but I think he's good. And he'll help keep them stable while a lot of these new players are still finding their way and maybe trying to find a breakout season. So first, Moonbong, he's a support. He's a Zenyatta and Ana main. And last season, he saw some decent success in the contenders. They actually they got second place in Korea contenders and second place in the Pacific Showdown. Eventually, they got fourth towards the end of the year in Season 2 of 2019 Contenders Korea. So overall, I'm expecting him to be pretty good. I don't think he'll be amazing, but I think he will be starting with Swimmer, who is another second-tier player. He comes from the Boston Uprising Academy, which I think is really cool, that he's able to work it up through their own academy. They got first in trials, but then 5th through 6th in actual contenders. Not fantastic, but I think it's awesome they're giving these young players more opportunity through their own system. And now Jerry, I'm most excited about Jerry because he says his name came from the show Tom and Jerry, and I actually named my dog after that, so I'm very partial, and I think we shouldn't doubt him too much until we actually get to see him in action. I think that we give all these second-tier players a lot of flack just because they haven't done it at like a super high level, which is understandable. I mean, it happens at every sport, right? You're not supposed to expect them to be Super Bowl champions until they're actually out of college. But I think we need to be more excited about it than we are. I don't think these players are so far behind that they can't make an improvement in one off season and one season. Munchkin, of course, they brought in as well, who I think will probably be starting with Colorhacks in the DPS until Jerry can show he can break through. Brusson, he was actually able to play in the Overwatch World Cup this past season, but I don't think he'll be starting. I think it'll be Axiom and Fusions for the most part, taking those starting reps. I think Brusson will be just a bench player. They have Muffin, who's a two-way player for tank as well, who I imagine might get more playing time. Muffin, of course, two-way player. I think it's great that they increased the amount of two-way players allowed. He can go up and down between contenders and the Overwatch League, which I think is great for development. I think it's better to have more allowed than not. When you have fewer two-way players allowed, it gives a lot more players, or it sticks a lot more players on a roster where they can't move, whether or not they get better, or if you want them to develop in a lower league where they can actually get playing time. And so I think it's a great deal they did there to increase the amount of players and move him to a tank player. Hopefully he'll probably get some play time by the end of the season if their season starts to fall apart. Or if tank ends up being a really weak spot, which I don't think it will. I think fusions and Axiom will probably be one of the more consistent parts. I don't think they'll be great this season, but as an overall team, I don't think they'll be awful. I think they'll be towards the bottom of the league, but I don't think it's going to be like a 2-win season. You know what I mean? Like they'll be all right. Overall, I think it's great that the management gave some of these second tier teams a chance. Last season, they obviously had a lot more proven talent, but that didn't go well either. And they went 0-7 once 2-2-2 roll lock was enforced, and they needed to make some changes, or else they were going to get destroyed this season too. And so I think this is a good way to go about it. If you can't, spend the money to get a whole bunch of A-tier players, the second tier scene is a great way to find some budget picks where you can actually, like, they can improve enough. You don't need the big names, I don't think, in Overwatch at the moment. Like, not that they will be better than the best players in the world, but they'll be able to compete and improve as time goes on. And so I'm excited for the Boston Uprising this season. I don't know if they'll be able to beat their 8 wins from last season. I think they will be bottom of the table, like 18th to 20th, which is a shame because I think they have the potential, if they play really well and this unproven talent that they have brought in actually proves himself, I guess. But I just think going into the season with them not having any like real success even in the second tier scene, I think it's hard to see them competing with many teams in the league. I think that they'll definitely sneak away with some wins, especially against some lower tier teams. But 8 wins, I think they'll be hard fought to beat. I don't think they'll have any awful stretches where they go 1-13 again, like last season for the second half of the season. But they'll be exciting to watch because, as I said, I'm personally very biased towards watching Jerry. And I love watching young players develop, and I think giving these unproven second tier teams a chance to develop where everybody else is doubting them, super exciting, and I can't wait to get into it. Season starts next month. Everybody, I've been Emrat. Thanks for watching.